Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for always coming back. All right, so if you've not subscribed, kindly do so. Just tap the subscription button, and so that whenever we upload new videos, you will be notified. All right, so in today's tutorial, we're going to be looking at connecting our Visual Studio Code editor to our GitHub account. Now, first thing we want to do in today's tutorial will be downloading our Git for our operating system, and after that we're going to sign up to GitHub, and after that we're going to create a folder in our Visual Studio Code editor and then push to our GitHub repository, and from there we are also going to create a repository from the GitHub and pull it or clone it to our Visual Studio Code editor. All right, so why do we need GitHub account, or what's the need for GitHub account? I'm sure you've seen one or two publications um, on front-end developers or back-end developers, and you see that you see Git and GitHub there. Now, so GitHub simply is a remote server where you can send your code, your projects to. So GitHub is an open source source control remote server that you can run your codes from your code editor and push them to the remote server for them to be saved there. So it's like hosting your projects for you. Each project you embark on, you want to have a copy of it in your GitHub account. All right, and you can access this code wherever you go, anywhere you go in the world, you can access this code. So that's why GitHub is very essential and you need it. Now, one typical example would be, for instance, that you do a particular project. Let's say you launch a particular website for a client, and the client comes back to say, I think I need some changes, to be made on this website. And quite well, you made the changes, and the client comes to say, oh, I think I prefer the previous version, the way it looked. So if you don't have your code saved in your GitHub terminal, your GitHub account, you will have to rewrite those codes over and over again. When the client complains, you have to rewrite the code. But with your GitHub terminal, you don't need to rewrite your code. All you need to do is just go to your GitHub and then pull. So you have different branches, and okay, this was the first branch, the second branch, this was the first commit, this is the second commit, and you can just pull and launch your project without having to write these codes all over again. All right, so without further ado, let's just dive right in and start our project. So the first thing we want to do is to go to Git scm/downloads. Okay, finally. So from here, we want to go to downloads. And here you want to download the one for your operating system. I'm on Windows, so I'm going to use Windows. I already have this installed, so I might not install this again. So if your system use the portable version, if it's 32 bits, go ahead and download 32 bits. If it's 64 bits, go ahead and download 64 bits. Once you download, open the downloader. Once you tap on it to download, and once it's done downloading, just open the downloaded folder and just tap on next until it is installed, and tap on finish once that is installed. Now, once it is installed, if you come back to your desktop, you are going to see Git GUI and Git Bash. So that's to tell you that your Git has been installed properly to your desktop. So let me just open the command. So this works like the command prompt. So here we can write our code here from the terminal. But for today's project, tutorial, we are not going to be using the terminal. We will have to do a separate tutorial on how to use your terminal with your GitHub. All right. But for today, we're going to be using Visual Studio Code. So the next thing we need to do is to go back to our browser and then type github.com. github.com. Here you want to sign up to github.com. And once you sign up, you can then log in. It's a very simple process to sign up. So once you are done signing up, you can then log in. So I already have an account, so I'm just going to sign in from here. So here I will just input my login credentials. Okay, the network is quite slow. Okay, so I'm logged into my GitHub account. So the next thing I want to do now is to go to my Visual Studio Code editor. So here from file, I just want us to create a folder. So let's open a new folder and so new folder. Let's give it a name and say GitHub Git tutorial and save. Okay. So here we have our folder, the Git tutorial. Let's just close this welcome. So here we want to first of all create a new file called readme.md. So readme.md is case sensitive. Note that. So the readme has to be capital letters, the md small letters. So readme.md. So readme.md, it's actually a file that contains a brief description of what the project is all about. Now, for you to push to your GitHub account, you must make sure you have README in each of your projects so that someone can just pick their README and understand exactly what the project is all about. So for this particular project, we're just going to say this is a tutorial on GitHub. Okay, so we're good. Save this and let's create another folder and call that, let's call that index.html. Okay, so here let's create a boilerplate by just tapping on exclamation mark and tap on enter. And here let's call this title GitHub tutorial. All right, and save. Okay, so we have these two files now inside our folder, the Git tutorial folder. Now we want to see how we can push this to our remote server, which is our GitHub account, to save it there for us so that we can access these files wherever we are. So to do that, first we'll have to go to source control, tap on source control, and then we'll go to publish to GitHub. So here we want to decide if we want to make this repository or this particular project private or public. Because it's a tutorial project, I will just make it public. If not, if it's a client's project, you can make it private. So let's just go with public. Here you see that it has selected two folders, two files. That's why it's showing two selected. So you can also decide that you want to push only one file to the remote folder, the remote server, and it will still work. But here we want to send the two. So I will just check the two and then tap on OK. Now, if it's your first time of pushing to GitHub, it might ask you to confirm your username or email and password from your GitHub account. So you can just go ahead and do that. It's a simple, straightforward process. All right. So here is trying to push our code to the remote server. So let's wait for it to be done, and then we'll go to our remote server and check if we will have these two files and this folder. So it's done. Let's go to our remote server. Here I'm just going to refresh my GitHub account. Now in this GitHub account, you have your profile. You can set up your profile, put up your profile picture and all that. And here is our repository. So repositories here represent each project. All right, so here it's our project that we just pushed. So let's open it and see what it's going to say to us. So as you can see, we have this is tutorial. This is a tutorial on GitHub, and then we'll have our index.html file. You see it was pushed 1 minute ago. So let's open our index.html file and see what is in there for us. Here you can see our code from our code editor that we just pushed to the remote server. So you can see the title, GitHub tutorial. So that is how you can push from your editor to your remote server to keep it safe. So wherever you go, you can access this particular project. Now the next thing we want to do is, let's say for instance, we want to add more files, we want to add more things to our project. What do we do and how do we push it to our remote server? Simply, let's go back to our Explorer. Then from here, let's create a new file called main.js, and let's also create a new file. Let's call this index.php, and let's create the last file, and let's call this style.css. Okay, so now we have 3 extra files that we just added to our project, and we want to push this. Now let's go to source control, and you can see that all these 3 files have within them this UUU. This is because they are unstaged. So if your files are unstaged, you cannot commit them, you cannot push them. So we want to make sure that they are staged, ready to be delivered or to be pushed to the remote server, to our GitHub account. So to do that, we're just going to click on the plus sign here. All right, and then click on the plus sign here, and click on the plus sign here, just to turn everything here to A. So now they are staged. All right, so we can go ahead and put a commit message. So we're going to put a commit message that will make us, whenever we come to this project, to know that okay, when we push this to the remote server, this was exactly why we pushed this. So you have to put a commit message, like a comment, that will help you to know why this was pushed by at this time. So here we're just going to say new files added. So we're just going to say php, css, js. All right, so we'll have a commit message, then we'll just go ahead and tap on commit. Now once we are able to do that, it will give us to synchronize. So let's just tap on synchronize changes, and then we're going to say yes. Okay, so now our code has been pushed to the GitHub terminal. So let's go to our GitHub account and let's refresh this to have the new files. Remember, before now have just 2 files. Now we're going to have 5 files because we just pushed extra 3 files to our remote server. Okay, so now we have our files loaded. So it took a longer time, and then you see that we have our files loaded. So if we tap on, so let me just tap on git tutorial, which is the name of the repository, the folder. I want you to see that commit message. So you see that these new files, 3 files, come with a different commit message saying new files added, PHP, CSS, and JS. So this will let you know that, okay, while I push this, it was just to add new files to my project. All right. So we can just keep going doing this. So if we can go back to your Explorer and add, for instance, let's go to our CSS and add some code, and then we'll now push from here. So let's just say we have this, and then let's just say let's do background color. All right, and let's say font family. All right, so let's just save this. Now we've included some things to our CSS file. Remember, before now there was nothing in it. So if we check our CSS file right now, you see that it's empty, but we want to make sure that we have something in our CSS file. And to do that, we are just going to edit it from our IDE, then we will now push it to the remote server. All right, so here you see that our styles .css doesn't have any text in it. So here we're just going to save this, and then let's go to our source control, and here we're going to make sure that this is staged. All right, and here we will just write and say body styles added. So let's just say body styles added. You want to make sure that your commit message is always very clean, so that you also understand why and when this was made. So go ahead and synchronize your changes, and then we're just going to say yes and allow it to push to the remote server. So it's pushing. Once that is done, if we refresh our styles.css, we should have, so let's refresh this, we should have our code inside here. All right, okay, guess you see trying to push. So let's see, let's refresh again. Yeah, so you see we have our code here in our remote server. So this is how you can just keep committing, push, commit and push, commit and push to your remote server as you work. And the next thing I want to show you is also to show you how to clone a repository from your GitHub account. So let's say you're working on a project with another developer, and the developer has already started the project, and then the developer sent the project to your GitHub account. Now, to get anything to your GitHub account, simply just send your username, GitHub username, to anybody, and the person can forward a repository to you or your email address. So let's say this was the project that our fellow developer, our colleague, sent to us, and we want to have this in our IDE so that we can edit and work on our code. So what we need to do is to open this folder or file, and then tap on code. We're going to tap on code, and here we want to copy this code here. So now we'll go back to our IDE, and here we'll just say clone. So clone. So here we're going to paste our URL that we copied. Sorry. So let's do that again. Clone. And then we're going to copy our URL and paste it here and say okay. It's asking us where we will save it. Let's just save it anywhere for now. So now open. So now if this open, you see that our dat folder is now in our remote, in our IDE. So this is how you can also clone from your remote folder or your remote account to your GitHub, to your IDE. All right. So you can, by the time you clone it, you can write your code and then you can push back to your remote server. So this is how you can work with your IDE, your code editor, and also connect it to your GitHub account to be able to synchronize your code and have your code anywhere you go on the remote server. All right. So this has brought us to the end of this tutorial. If you've got value in this tutorial, kindly just leave us a comment. And if you have issues whatsoever, you can also drop a comment and we'll do well to attend to your questions. All right. Make sure to like the video and make sure to also check for new videos as they come in. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you again in our next video. Bye for now.